Here at GTN, we love tech, and it becomes clear if you pan back through the years as to just the extent of it. Well, we've whittled down a selection of our favourite pieces from the last 3 years, and can I just say, you're in for a treat. We are a triathlon channel, so it makes sense that we start with the swim, and it's actually that area of our sport that has seen a huge surge in its tech development over just the last year. It was Form goggles that led the way with their augmented display, allowing you to see your pace, your stroke rate, the distance that you've swam, all while still swimming without having to stop and look at a watch. And they have more recently teamed up with Polar, and using the Polar OH1 Plus, you can now even view your heart rate while swimming. Well, Mark put them through their paces here.
And swimming has kind of been stuck in the dark ages for some time now, but I do think that these are bridging the gap on that. And I also think that had I had these a number of years ago, it may well have fixed my inability to pace back then. Maybe even saved me from being told off by my old swimming coach countless times. But as I showed earlier, these really helped me to pace that 400 time trial a little bit better. I've also been using it a little bit within my own swimming training and using those real-time metrics that are displayed within the lens to help me pace my reps better. Now, there are countless functions and metrics that can be displayed within these lenses, and you can change the configuration of those around. But I've particularly been enjoying using the interval function, and that will display your current pace, your split times. So each time you tumble or you turn, it will start to rack up the distance for you and record that that is a length completed. When you stop at the end of the wall, it will automatically stop the timer, it will give you your split time, and it will start a recovery timer. When you then push off the wall again, it will stop that recovery timer and start your interval timer again. And again, show you these metrics on your pacing and giving you a split time again at the end, all whilst not affecting the vision.
We're so used to getting feedback with our cycling and our running, but as soon as you get into the water, it gets that much harder. And with a swim stroke consisting of so many different elements, if you change one, it's very hard to measure the effect of that on your overall stroke and on your efficiency. So this is where this new and exciting piece of tech comes in. And I got the chance to try out the Incus last year, and I spoke to MD Chris Ruddock to find out exactly how it works.
Most people will be used to typical wrist-based trackers, which will give you things like your laps and your stroke count and those kind of metrics. With the Nova, we're able to understand your strokes, your breaths, your kicks on left and right hand sides independently. We're able to understand your body pitch and your body roll through the stroke. And more importantly, we're able to understand how the person's actually moving through the water as a result of each stroke. So our analytics can do the maths in between to measure those inputs, the strokes, the breaths, the kicks, and those outputs, actually how much you're moving forwards, and do the maths in between to say what's working for you and what's not working for you as an athlete.
And I mean, this sounds amazing. It sounds like, you don't need a coach once you've got that, but how can coaches and then athletes themselves use this, and what do you envisage it, how is it going to go into the market, and who's going to be able to use it?
The system is entirely developed from the ground up with athletes and coaches in mind. So it's about providing high quality information for coaches that don't readily have that information for them. For those that don't have a coach, it gives them that guidance through data. So it's about high quality information, but simple and easy to use. We're not all sports scientists, so that's what it's about.
I think it's fair to say that most of us are dying to get back to some form of swimming at the moment. And this is where a home pool would come in rather handy. Well, Mark got to check out the Master Spas pools when he was out in Kona last year.
So right here behind me, I have possibly my favourite product here in the expo, because this container is full of nice cold water, which, trust me, I'm dying to jump into because it is boiling here. But in all seriousness, this is a swimming propulsion unit from Master Spas. This is their 15-foot version. They also have an 18-foot version, and also a 20-foot version. And it's powered by 3 pumps. 2 of them are variable pumps, and then on the front it's got 6 jets. You've got 3 along the top, 2 beneath, and then a triangular one underneath. Now those go as low as 120 per 100 pace. It's a fairly good pace for a lot of people out there, but it is designed more for endurance swimming, so getting those long swims in, and also obviously goes down to a really nice slow pace. But the really cool bit is it's also a jacuzzi. So it's got loads of jets around the side, nice seating areas, so you can just sit down in there and chill if you don't fancy your training.
This is the final piece of swim tech for today, and for this one, I'm going to hand over to Fraser at Challenge Roth.
So we've made our way to the De Boer stand here at the expo, and this is the Fiord wetsuit, their brand new suit, or one of their 2 brand new suits, and I am luckily going to be able to give this thing a try in the swimming pool. So I'm going to pop over there now and see what it feels like. It's got some really exciting features. Now, the first one I'll talk about is this ribbed neoprene feature you can see here, which is something they call whaleskin. They've taken 7mm thick neoprene and squashed it down into 5mm, which then makes it legal. That's as thick as you can have on any panel in a wetsuit. Another really great feature that they've got on this is their arms. Now these are only 0.3 of a mil thick, which is the thinnest neoprene that is available on the market, full stop. And another really excellent feature on these is, and something I don't really want to try too hard, but I'm told they're completely rip-free. All in all, I can see these being really popular.
However, it is bike tech that steals the lion's share. And the last few years have not disappointed, both in cycling and triathlon specific bike tech. So we've done our best to whittle down a selection here. Now, obviously, there are a few perks not being governed by the UCI, and in particular, that's been the development of the bike frame. And we've seen a few manufacturers really pushing the boundaries on this. And understandably, Mark got a little excited over 2 unique designs back in 2018 out in Kona.
Well, this is the Diamond Marquis TT bike, which you may remember me featuring out here in Kona last year. And it's quite an exciting bike because the whole bike splits in half. So you see this seam here, bolts here. All you need to do is release that bolt there and another bolt through the section in there. And the whole bike comes apart, which is really important if you are traveling in the US, particularly because it's quite expensive to travel your bike. So it all fits into separate bags, and you put it through as your standard luggage, which is amazing, really. Now, there are some updates from last year's model of the Marquis. We've now got disc brakes on this model, and that now has allowed the forks to run a little bit narrower rather than having the brakes integrated into the forks, obviously for the rim brakes. We've also got this updated seat post, which is the Ritchie 1 bolt, so you can see that on the bike here, and that just allows very easy kind of change of position on the bike, and also this sort of opening at the back so you can attach any bottle cages or CO2 mounts. So really nice. And obviously we can't forget the paintwork. That looks amazing. We've got a whole load of fades going on there, and that becomes standard with any 2019 model. Well, this is the bike that a lot of people have been discussing lately. The C-Post Shadow R. Obviously, we are missing a front wheel, but you get the picture. We've got a very unusual design on the front. Not even talking about the beam frame here, we're talking about the front end. That is really glaringly obvious. And it's got this kind of, it comes down off the stem and from the headset area, and we've got this arch around the wheel. The idea being that you're then blocking the wind coming into that front of the bike. So the whole of the front of the bike is essentially hidden, which they claim to be more aerodynamic. And then we've got this beam going across, so then you can obviously attach the wheel into. And they say this also has just like a natural suspension in it, whereas normally with a fork you've got quite a rigid line coming down from the headset. It's now got this beam going across, a little bit of suspension there, which they say is actually quite nice. Another thing they weren't expecting was that given that they got the weight further forward on the wheel, all this weight going around the front, actually makes it quite hard to move that front wheel. So when you got the crosswinds, particularly here in Hawaii, actually it makes it a very stable bike. And if you look at the aerodynamic side of it, we've obviously got this nice clean line coming through towards the bottom bracket and through the bike. Quite good. But interestingly, if you were to maybe not like this design, you could just ride it with a standard fork, which we have seen a couple of pros riding around on this last week in Kona. And for that, obviously, you would end up with a big gap here. So they have an adapter that you can place in, fill that gap so it's nice and close to the wheel.
It was this next bike, though, that had the most hype behind it because it had been 7 years since Specialized had last released a Shiv.
Well, by now this probably isn't brand new news to you, but this is the new Specialized Shiv disc bike. It's pretty special, yeah. The last time they released their Shiv was in 2011, and we've got some big updates to it now. So let's start off. We've got these crazily low rear stays, so these have been dropped quite considerably. Obviously the disc brakes, we've got these wacky forks on the front, much bigger than previously, and also they come right up to the base bar. But they've also got this really wide stance, that's for aerodynamics, where we've got the flow of air from the wheel spinning round and also the flow of air coming around the forks, so there's not quite so much disturbance in a small space. They're allowing a little bit more room for that. But then we've got this sail off the back. And this has really been well thought through to improve the aerodynamics and also that kind of sail effect to push the rider along. So this, I think, to take a closer look at this, we need to look at the bike behind. And this is where we store our hydration. So we've got a bladder system here which you can fill up pre-ride, and then that would usually connect to a straw that runs all the way through the frame and then pops out here. And that runs past their fuel cell as well. So this is a little pouch that you can fill up with gels. At the moment I think it's got Skittles in it. And then that can also be removed, and should you need to, you can then access your spares that you'd have in there. But yeah, really nicely designed, very, very different from their previous Shiv.
Okay, let's step away from triathlon specific tech for a moment and rewind to when SRAM introduced the update to their wireless SRAM Ready ETAP with the release of the Access. It is of course still wireless and now comes with a flat top chain which makes it quieter and stronger, and it can also be run as a one-by, something that appeals to us as triathletes, especially when racing flat courses, and it's also suitable for rim or disc brakes. So no wonder we're seeing more triathletes opting for that group set. Well, now this next piece we are going to head back to Kona, and it's an invention that would be rather handy for us right now with the amount of indoor training we're all doing. It is the SRAM MP1 Infinity Plate that basically makes training at home that much more real.
Right, so here at the SRAM stand, this is their, well, soon to be released MP1 Infinity Plate. Now, this is another attempt to make indoor cycling that a little bit more real. So this plate actually has lateral movement, so that's on a leaf spring. We've got 6 degrees either side. We've also got some rollers, so we've got 4.5 movement here. But essentially, the big thing here is when we get up out of the saddle, or if we're sprinting, we can just ride like we are on the road.
And our final piece of bike tech, surprisingly, comes from Norseman, where Fraser spotted this piece of tech on one of Mark's competitors' bikes.
Right, so we are here the day before Norseman with defending champion and multiple winner Alan Hovde. So he's very kindly going to take us through the bike that he's going to be racing on tomorrow. And specifically, I'm really interested to have a look at these because I have never seen these MorphTech handlebars before. So Alan, can you give us a demonstration, please?
Yeah, the MorphTech handlebars, they're quite, I would say, unique.
Yeah.
In terms that you don't have a base bar. The aero bars are both aero bars and base bars.
And you literally just, what you've done there is just pulled them out and there's no mechanism or locking. That just action was you just moving your hands down, wasn't it?
Yes, and then they lock in this position. So to get them back as aero bars, you have to press both the levers. And
so you push both those levers at the same time and
yes.
Hey presto, we've got a really, really aero system again.
Yes.
And to bring things home, we're now on to the run. And yep, you guessed it, we're heading back out to Kona, this time to 2019. And it wasn't just the tech that was scorchingly hot out there. Obviously, the weather under that Hawaiian sun gets pretty warm too. And as a result, you'll see the pros finding any opportunity or any new piece of tech that can help them to keep their cool when competing under that scorching heat. Well, you might have spotted a new piece of tech on many of the pros' heads during the race. If you've got no idea what I'm on about, this should help.
Right, so here I have the Omnius headband. This is actually Josh Amberger's in his custom Kona colorway, which matches his race suit. Now, if we were just to pour a little bit of water onto the back of these pads, this special compound here, which you can see raises out of the headband, increases the skin surface area by 5 times. So when we whack this on our head, it's already really quite cold. If we were to run along the wind passing through this compound, it should really feel quite cold, which is obviously really important for somewhere like here in Kona with the heat and the humidity that the athletes are going to experience on race day.
Unsurprisingly, the majority of running tech comes in the form of footwear, and what an incredibly fast-moving and exciting 12 months we have seen in the development of run shoes. So much so that the World Athletics have had to bring in new rules stating that a shoe has to be released onto the market for the public for at least 4 months before it can be used by pros in an international race. They've also stated that any shoe is only allowed a maximum of 1 carbon plate, and the sole thickness must not exceed 40 mil in height. Well, first off, it was Nike that really led the way with their new Nike Zoom Vaporfly. That was then very soon followed up with the Nike Zoom Alphafly Next Percent. Well, both of these shoe series did cause some controversy and continue to do so, as we're seeing so many world records getting broken in the running world. But it's also having quite an influence on triathlon, and you only have to look at the podium in Kona for the women's side just to see the influence of this new shoe. But it wasn't just Nike who were releasing new shoes. We saw a new release from Zoot with their Zoot Ultra TT, where Mark got to have a look at a full dissection out in Kona.
Now, it's also been 4 years since Zoot actually produced a new running shoe, and this is the new Ultra TT, which again I used to race in way back when, and this is obviously their Kona edition, but they've teamed up with Danny Abshire from Newton to produce this. Now here is the sole for that, obviously a split construction. So this is their tri-layer, so we've got a high rebound layer at the bottom here, this big white area. You've got a protective layer on the ball of the foot and the heel here, and then on the top an extra bit of expanded foam for cushioning. Now if we look at the bottom here, you can see a few holes along the bottom. This is obviously for a triathlon specific shoe, so as we're pouring water on ourselves, as we sweat, water can drain out of there, as we can see just down here as it's doing, dripping out of those holes. So that's going to reduce blisters or any chafing. It's also a seamless construction to add to that to reduce the blisters. We've got a flat lace design on here to help with the transitions, as well as these little tongues and pulls to help.
Moving away from shoes but sticking with running, 2019 really saw the surge and increase in popularity in using running power as another metric. Well, both Stride and Polar have devices that allow you to be able to see your running power as you're running along, coming through your wristwatch. Well, we took a closer look to see exactly what this means for the future of running.
Now, a power meter will tell you how much power you're putting out per foot stride and propulsion, and therefore how economical you are whilst you're running. Now this can be really interesting as you start to play around with your cadence, your stride length, your technique, your form, your speed, and so on. And you'll be able to see your power throughout all of this and how it differs for each of these changes. And ultimately we're looking to put out more power for less effort, and therefore more economical running.
Another really valuable area for power meters in running is the ability to be able to measure the exact intensity of that workout. Now, many of us have already used power in cycling to be able to measure our intervals, for example. Well, you can do exactly the same when it comes to running. And this means that you can hit the exact intensity that you need to for that set time, therefore getting more out of your workout and also preventing overtraining.
I told you we do like our tech here at GTN. Well, if this has just whet your appetite for a little bit more, well, there is plenty more over on the channel, so go and check out all of the other previous tech tours from Kona. We've also got a tech tour from Challenge Roth, and more recently from the Half Ironman World Championships out in Nice. Well, if you have enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up, like, and do check out all of our other social media channels to find out what we're up to.